Lisa, you've just rebranded as Tourist SOS. Tell us a little bit about it.
That's right, Owen. We have done a complete rebrand from Irish Tourist Assistance Service, people might remember us as ITAS, to Tourist SOS, which I think everybody will agree that as a name, it's much easier to remember and understand the type of service that we are, and particularly for tourists coming into the country, and also, though, for people within the industry. It reflects better what we do, which is to assist international visitors to the country who may experience a crime or other type of distressing incident. And when we were kind of looking at the rebrand, or to rebrand the service, we knew from feedback from tourists that they rated the service very well. They were giving us positive feedback, so we knew we were doing something right. Yeah. But on the other hand, we knew also that many people within the industry weren't aware of the service. Yeah. And so we needed a brand that was stronger and easy to remember. Yeah. And we hope in time that, if somebody is dealing with a tourist that needs support, that Tourist SOS is what will come to mind.
Yeah, it very much kind of does what it says on the tin, and it's very intuitive. So I suppose, in that regard, it works really well.
Exactly. And I suppose as well, SOS is an international term for distress. So whatever language you speak, hopefully tourists will understand that, in an emergency situation, perhaps, where they have they need support, then this is the place to come, and we will be able to help them.
You were ITAS, as you said. Now you're a Tourist SOS. How long has the entity been in operation, and is it still relatively unique in terms of international destinations? I mean, we're one of the few countries that has this service for visitors.
That's right. Would you believe we mark our 30th anniversary this year? So we've been going since 1994, and in that time we've assisted over 20,000 tourists. So we I suppose have the experience of dealing with all different types of situations. But yes, you're right, it is unique. We're the only country in Europe offering this dedicated nationwide support to its visitors, and I believe it's something that, as Ireland can be really proud of, because if people come to the country and experience an incident and people are there to support them, it has a really positive impact on their experience and their outcome. And I suppose that's what we're about. We're about dealing with the situation as quickly as possible and trying to get visitors back on track and back to enjoying their holiday. And 9 out of 10 tourists that we assist continue with their holiday, which I think is a great indication of the type of support that we do provide.
So just in terms of a practical example, I'm an American visitor or a French visitor or whatever. I'm robbed or something. I have a bad experience. I come across your service. What do you provide that impacted individual?
Yes, so we offer immediate, I suppose, emotional and very practical assistance. So obviously, if tourists come into us, they can be very distressed. They're far away from family and friends. They may not speak the language. So we obviously listen to their experience, see what needs to be done, so for example, last week we were dealing with 2 French tourists who had their bag taken. There was €500 cash, their credit cards, their national identity cards. So when they came in to us, they were an elderly couple and they were quite distressed about the situation. Absolutely. So we were able to phone the embassy, get an appointment for them for that afternoon. They were able to phone their son to get money transferred over to them. Yeah. It was around lunchtime, and they had literally no money to get anything. So we were able to provide them with a voucher for a meal. They were due to go to the embassy then later, and we were able to provide them then with complimentary transport on the bus to get out and get back. Yeah. Yeah. And really, we were just there to support them. And by, within a couple of hours, they were back on their feet. They had their identity documents. They had received the money from their son, and they were, able to get back to continuing with their holiday. So it was that prompt intervention. We work very much with the tourism industry.
Yeah.
So we work very closely with the airlines, with the likes of restaurants and hotels. So sometimes tourists will also maybe require accommodation because they're due to fly out that evening, and perhaps documents are gone and they can't make their flight. So without the support from the industry, we wouldn't have the comprehensive support that we have. So, we rely on it, and we're very, very grateful for all the support that we receive as well. And also from, I just mentioned Fáilte Ireland there, who are fantastic with our rebranding as well, and the support. So yes, we get huge support from the industry, which is great to have.
And I suppose it sort of minimizes to a certain extent the upset that a visitor might have. And I understand you have offices is maybe the wrong word, but you have reception centres or whatever in 2 Garda stations in Dublin city centre. So you're easily accessible as well, certainly within the capital.
Yep, absolutely. So we the service is free, obviously, and we do provide support throughout Ireland for all visitors that may need our support. But we have, as you say, 2 office locations in the primary Garda stations, I suppose, in the capital. So that's in Pearse Street Garda Station and O'Connell Street Garda Station. And the reasons for that really is that tourists require that immediate support. So if something is lost or stolen, they may not have access to funds, the credit cards, everything is gone. So it's generally tourists will learn about our support perhaps from the Gardaí. So when they're reporting an incident, then they can be easily referred. And the fact that we're located in the city centre, we're accessible from all around the city. So if Gardaí are referring, or even the industry themselves, it's easy to direct tourists to our offices to get that face-to-face support.
It's an absolutely fabulous service. And tell me, just anecdotally, there was the Dublin riots last November, and anecdotally you hear about maybe a little bit more of public unrest or whatever. Is there more of a demand for your services now than there has been in the past, or do you track it from one year to the next?
Yes, we do. So last year we saw record numbers of tourists, actually. So we assisted 1,364 tourists last year. But I suppose that relates to 2019 when it was 1,024. So it was a slight increase. But generally, I suppose I'd also say that this year, and already we've seen nearly 1,000 tourists. So more tourists, we're seeing more tourists, but we're not putting it down to an increased incidence of crime per se. We believe it's also due to the fact that we've opened a second office last year. So we find that if the service is visible and easily accessible, more tourists will use it. So we're putting it down to that, because the level of tourist crime actually throughout the country has actually decreased on previous years. So the fact that we're seeing more tourists doesn't indicate necessarily that there's an increase in crime, although sometimes the figures might suggest that. And the majority of situations that we would deal with, 95% of the crime is down to thefts. So very much opportunistic thefts.
But at least we have a service here in Ireland to mitigate it somewhat.
Well, exactly. And I think it works particularly well here because we're a very hospitable nation and people want to help. And so the fact that we have the service is great, I think, for our international reputation. Tourists go back, they speak about the experience that they've had, and if they've had somewhat negative experience, but they were dealt with in a positive way, that's what they will bring back. And the feedback that we receive indicates that they know that crime can occur in any country, but it's how it's dealt with that will influence their perceptions of the country and the people that they're dealing with. So I think it's great from that point of view.
Great. Well, listen, Lisa, keep up the good work. I can't believe you're 30 years in existence, and the rebrand is superb. It's very fresh. It's very dynamic. I think it's going to work very well. So thank you so much for the service you provide to visitors who are in a distressful situation, and obviously the industry, and I know the agencies are right behind you as well.
That's great. Thanks a million. Just one last thing I'd like to say, if anybody is looking to learn a bit more about our service, we have a fantastic new website, touristsos.ie, and it's a great resource, and not only for tourists, but also for the industry. And we have a dedicated section specifically for those within the industry on the front line dealing with perhaps tourists in distressing situations. So that's another one of, to add to their many websites that they may have. But yeah, it's a great resource for people.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks a million. Thanks, Owen.